Hey everybody, Andre here at Coach's Hangout, a spot where our students can come and leave their requests, knowing from time to time our study coaches will pop by to hang out, virtually of course, and leave some helpful content. Are you about to write the securities exam? Well, if so, stay tuned, because in only a few minutes I'm going to show you a neat little trick that could translate into many different potential marks on exam day. But first, are you finding this content helpful? Well, if so, please let us know by subscribing to our YouTube channel. And if you're liking a video, be sure to smash that like button and turn on the notification bell so you know each time we go live or upload a video. Ultimately, we're hoping you like this content and you're finding it helpful, and you head over to SeeWhyLearning.com to check out our full suite of exam preparation study tools. All right, now as promised, here's a neat little trick that could help you out with many different possible exam questions. One of the concepts that students struggle with are the bond pricing properties. If interest rates were to go up, what happens to the market value of existing bonds? How do interest rates and yields relate? What is the relationship there? And how are bond prices and yields related? All right, this can crop up on many different exam questions in many different forms. Now, don't worry, we got a tip that's going to really help you out. If you go to the SeeWhy Learning Study Guide, you're going to find we've got a neat little diagram there, and it's just 3 little arrows, but these 3 little arrows are really powerful when it comes to tackling different questions. And you'll see it on the screen now. If interest rates were to go up, that would put downward pressure on the market price of existing bonds that have fixed coupon rates. And in turn, that'll push the yield of that bond up so that, these bonds are equally attractive in the marketplace. So that's the relationship. If interest rates go up, bond prices go down and bond yields go up. And the reverse is also true. And also you want to make a note that yield to maturity factors in more than current yield. So yield to maturity always moves more than current yield. So if yields went up, current yield would go up, but yield to maturity would go up more. If yields go down, current yield would go down, but yield to maturity would go down more. Great little memory aid. Yield to maturity has 3 letters in it. The acronym YTM has 3 letters in it. CY only has 2 letters in it. YTM has more letters in it. It moves more. It's a great little memory aid. All right, with that in mind, I'm going to assume that you take us up on an exam writing tip that when your exam starts, I talk about this in another video, you want to do a 2-minute brain dump. When your exam starts, flip your exam over, but before you start the first question, take 2 minutes and jot down some things that you're probably going to need on the exam, and you don't want your mind to go blank when the time occurs. So you want to do a 2-minute brain dump, and this diagram is one of those things I suggest you include in that brain dump. And let's see how it would help us out with this question that you'll now see on the screen from our exam preparation tools. Now, in this question, Tarzan bought $50,000 face value of ABC bond at a market price of $90. Now, that doesn't mean he's getting a $50,000 bond for $90. Bonds are quoted in terms of $100 of face value. So really what we're saying is for every $100 of face value, you can buy it at a market price of $90. We also read the scenario. It says the bond's current yield has fallen, and it's asking you what would the present value of the bond most likely be. Now, I know from experience when working with students, present value scares a lot of students. I mean, there's a pretty scary looking formula or two in the textbook on how to calculate the present value of a bond, and it's not too easy. So when students see present value, a lot of times their eyes glaze over, or they just guess and move on. They figure it's too hard a mark for them. It really isn't. When you see present value, I would cross that out in this context and put market value or bond price. Now, they're not exactly the same thing, right? Present value is a calculation, and market value is what the bond is trading at in the marketplace. So they're not exactly the same thing, but they're so similar, right? Like if a bond has a market a present value of, let's say, $1,100. Well, if its present value is $1,100, its market price is probably going to be pretty close to $1,100, right? So they're not exactly the same, but you can think of them as quite similar. So if it helps you, change this question to read, what would the bond price be, or what would the market value of the bond be? By all means, it's still going to help you, and it's not going to change the answer. Okay, so now we've read that its yield has fallen. All we got to do here is go to this diagram. Now, I highly recommend you understand these principles, but on an exam, you don't want to get confused, and that's why I would use this diagram if you have it jotted down. So we can go to this diagram, and we can see that bond prices and yields go in the opposite direction. So if in this question the bond's yield has fallen, or we would think the bond price would go up. And since he bought it for $90 and the yield has fallen since that time, we would expect the price to go up and be more than $90. I think that's the answer. What do you think? All right, let's just think through this a little bit more. Let's just make sure we got it right. We can look at this diagram, and we know that yields and bond prices move in opposite directions. We know the bond's yield's gone down. And if the bond price goes in the opposite direction, that means the bond price has gone up. It's probably more than $90. That's enough for me. And we're right. So as you can see with this diagram, there's so much information here, right? We can see that interest rates and bond prices move in opposite directions. We can see that interest rates and yields move in the same direction. We can see bond prices and bond yields move in opposite directions. And as I mentioned, you want to know that YTM has more letters in it. It moves more than current yield. Great little memory aid. So I highly recommend what you do is jot down this diagram, and when you're working with the SeeWhy Learning exam preparation tools, anytime you see a question that deals with either interest rates or yields or bond prices, take a look and see if this diagram will help you. I'm guessing for quite a few questions it will, and then I don't have to sell you on this concept. You're going to see that, geez, these three little arrows can be powerful when it comes to tackling a question, and then you're probably going to take me up on my tip that when your exam starts, before you even look at the first question, get this down on paper, right? Do your 2-minute brain dump, jot down some of the things you want to have handy, and it's going to be a much easier exam experience for you. Thank you, everybody, for watching this video. Keep up the great work, and good luck on your upcoming exams.